Let's establish this from the beginning. Kindness alone won't sustain you in this world. If you believe being virtuous is sufficient for success, you're trapped in an illusion. The harsh reality you already sense but refuse to acknowledge is this. How often have you felt trampled by others? How frequently have you acted righteously only to be ignored or exploited? You've been conditioned to believe goodness is rewarded, that honesty and nobility lead to recognition. But reality operates differently. The world doesn't reward the virtuous. It rewards those who understand how to navigate the game strategically. This is where Machiavelli enters. Machiavelli grasped something most people overlook. Human nature is fundamentally self-serving, inconsistent and ruthless when circumstances demand it. In The Prince, he clarified that virtue without cunning becomes weakness, that goodness without strategy becomes a trap. Consider this. How many times have you fallen into that trap? Think about those you admire, those who've achieved remarkable things. Do you believe they reached those heights through good intentions alone? They succeeded because they knew when to operate behind the scenes, because they understood that morality isn't an obstacle but a tool. Knowing when to display it and when to conceal it distinguishes players from pawns. Your problem isn't being good. Your problem is not knowing how to protect yourself. You assume others operate by your moral code, but that's not reality. The world contains predators masquerading as friends, opportunists who identify naivety from great distances. Without realizing it, you become the perfect target. Here's where Machiavelli offers an alternative: intelligent virtue. This isn't about becoming malicious or abandoning your principles. It's about understanding that kindness must be coupled with keen awareness of reality. It's about learning to read people, anticipate their intentions, know when to trust and when to maintain your guard. Machiavelli stated that it's better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. What have you chosen? Certainly you've chosen to be loved, to be accepted, to appear harmless. But what has that gained you? Not respect, not influence. What you've gained is others knowing they can exploit you without consequences, because kindness without strength doesn't inspire admiration. It inspires pity. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not telling you to stop being good. I'm telling you to learn how to be good without being naive. Understand that the world doesn't reward the just. It rewards the astute. True virtue isn't submission, but the ability to balance ethics with pragmatism. If this realization about balancing virtue with strategic intelligence is already shifting your perspective on what it means to be truly strong, then you're ready to explore Machiavelli's profound insights into power and survival. Subscribe to PSYPHORIA Zone and hit that like button to support content that reveals the harsh realities about human nature and power dynamics that can transform how you protect and advance yourself in this world. Machiavelli taught that image is everything. It's not only about who you are, but about how others perceive you. If you appear weak, they'll treat you as weak. If you appear strong, they'll treat you with respect. How often have you allowed others to disrespect you from fear of losing their approval? How often have you remained silent to avoid conflict, only to realize this costs you more than you gain? It's not about being cruel, it's about being strategic. The key is knowing when to act, when to speak, when to retreat, and when to advance. Kindness is an advantage when used correctly, but when unchecked, it becomes your greatest enemy. The mistake many good people make is thinking the world values purity of heart. It doesn't. The world values power, security, the ability to make difficult decisions. Kindness is only respected when accompanied by authority. If you lack power, your kindness becomes irrelevant. Machiavelli would tell you not to be a lamb in a world of wolves, not to let your morality transform you into a slave. True virtue isn't submission, it's intelligence. It's not about passive adaptation, but about shaping your environment to your advantage. Consider this. How much longer will you allow the world to walk over you? How much longer will you be a victim of your own naivety? I'm not telling you to stop being good. I'm telling you to start being good in ways that benefit you. Learn to operate in shadows when necessary. Know when to smile and when to show your teeth, because the world isn't fair. But you can learn to play by its rules while remaining true to yourself. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince to teach evil. He wrote it to teach survival. The question is, are you going to continue living in the illusion that kindness is enough, or will you start applying true intelligence? Here comes a concept few understand. The perception of power. It's not enough to be strong. You must appear strong. It's not enough to possess intelligence. You must project it. In this world, reality matters less than others' perception of you. Think about this. How often have you seen an incompetent person advance further than a talented one? How often have you witnessed a manipulator rise while a noble, hard-working person remains stagnant? This isn't accidental. People don't follow the good or the just. They follow those who seem in control, who know how to manage their image, who project authority, who act confident even when uncertain. This is where many fail. They believe truth alone suffices, that genuine competence will speak for itself. But the world doesn't operate that way. The world doesn't reward those who are right. It rewards those who know how to sell their version of the story. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. It's not just about who you are, but about what others believe you to be. Perception is everything. An insecure leader doesn't inspire confidence even if they're most prepared. A worker who doesn't know how to get noticed will never advance, even if they're most capable. A person who doesn't project value will never be desired, even if they have much to offer. That's why the key isn't just in being, but in mastering the narrative about yourself, learning to control your image, creating the right impression in every situation. It's not about deception. It's about directing others' attention to what you want them to see. In any social interaction, people don't perceive reality as it is. They perceive it through filters of assumptions, prejudices, and emotions. The question is, are you letting those filters work against you, or are you using them to your advantage? If you're good but appear weak, they'll treat you as weak. If you're just but seem soft, they'll trample you. If you're talented but appear insecure, you'll be ignored. It's that simple. The art of perception separates those who control their destiny from those controlled by others. Here we enter a darker but necessary area: information control. Have you ever wondered why the most powerful always seem to know something others don't? Why those who dominate always seem to have an advantage? The answer is simple. They know when to speak and when to remain silent. Naive people believe absolute honesty is virtuous, that always speaking their mind and sharing everything they know is correct. But in reality, information is power, and you can't give away power without consequences. Machiavelli said a prince must know how to conceal their true intentions, not because they should be dishonest, but because in a world where everyone seeks advantage, those who reveal too much become vulnerable. Learn to control what you share, to say only what's necessary and nothing more, to maintain certain mystery, to make people wonder what you really think. Because the moment you become completely predictable, the moment others can anticipate every move you make, you lose any strategic advantage you might have had. The greatest players in history, in politics, business, art, or any field, understood this. Strategic silence is as powerful as speech. Think of someone you admire, someone with real influence. Are they someone who says everything, who exposes themselves completely? Or someone who always leaves something in the shadows, who always has a hidden card? The problem with many is they confuse transparency with weakness. They believe if they don't reveal everything, they're being dishonest. But it's not about lying. It's about controlling information flow to your advantage. Think about this. How often has speaking too much hurt you? How often have you trusted the wrong person, revealing something that later turned against you? How often have you given explanations no one asked for, just to justify yourself to people who didn't deserve it? Power isn't in speaking more. Power is in knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. Here comes the big lesson almost nobody applies. Those who speak least, who explain least, command the most respect. Why? Because silence creates uncertainty. Uncertainty creates curiosity, and curiosity gives power. If you always say what you think without filter, people lose interest. If you always explain your actions, people assume you need justification. But when you only speak when necessary, when you choose words carefully, when you leave room for interpretation, people start paying real attention to you. Another fundamental concept: the art of unpredictability. Predictable people are easy to manipulate. If you always act the same way, if you're always predictable in responses, emotions, and decisions, others can anticipate you. They can use you. But when you're unpredictable, when people are never sure of your next move, you become dangerous. And when you're dangerous, they respect you. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. A leader who can be read like an open book is weak, but a leader who maintains certain mystery, who changes when necessary, who never lets others label them completely, that's the leader who stays in power. This concept of strategic unpredictability versus being an open book is crucial for anyone serious about protecting themselves from manipulation. I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever experienced being too predictable and having someone take advantage of that predictability? Share your story, because understanding these real-world examples helps our community recognize these patterns and develop better psychological defenses against exploitation. The question is, do you want to keep being an open book that anyone can read, manipulate, and exploit? Or do you want to start being a strategist who controls their image, their information, and their unpredictability for their own benefit? Because kindness without strategy is just an invitation to be devoured. The world doesn't change its rules for you, so learn to play with the rules that actually exist, not the ones you've been made to believe. If you do it well, if you apply what really works, then for the first time you'll stop being a victim of the system and start being one of those who dominate it. Here comes the most interesting part, the art of strategic distance. Many believe the key to power is always being present, being omnipresent, making yourself noticed at every moment. But reality is different. Those who are too available lose their value. Scarcity creates desire, absence creates impact. Think about this. Why do certain people generate more respect just by being present, while others, no matter how hard they try, never seem to impose authority? The difference lies in the perception of their value. Machiavelli said a prince should avoid becoming too accessible, not because they should disdain their people, but because excessive familiarity destroys respect. When you're always there, when you give without measure, people start taking your presence, your effort, your generosity for granted. This doesn't just apply to politics or power. It applies to relationships, work, life itself. When you give too much, you become disposable. When you're always available, you become a resource, not a person of value. Think about it. How often have you given everything for someone only to have them not appreciate it? How often have you been there for everyone only to be ignored when you needed support? It's not accidental. It's human nature. What is abundant is despised. What is scarce is valued. That's why you must learn to regulate your presence, to dose your attention, to manage the perception of your availability. Don't always respond immediately. Don't always be within everyone's reach. Make your absence noticed, make your presence significant. When you learn to disappear at the right moment, when you learn to regulate your energy, people start looking for you. The problem is most people fear disappearing. They fear that if they step back, they'll be forgotten. But here's the brutal truth. If your only way of being remembered is by always being there, then you are never truly valuable. Those who really impact aren't the ones who shout loudest, but those who know how to handle silence, who know when to withdraw and when to reappear. Look at any great figure in history. The real players aren't everywhere. They don't exhaust themselves in every battle. They show up when it really matters, and when they do, everyone pays attention. This brings us to another key point: emotional control as a tool of power. Here's where most people fail. People believe control is based on strength, on aggressiveness, on imposing themselves with loud voices and clenched fists. But true mastery, the kind Machiavelli understood better than anyone, is in absolute emotional control. Because those who lose control, who react impulsively, who are carried away by anger or anxiety, become predictable, manipulable, and weak. Think about the last time someone made you lose your cool. The moment you got angry, the moment you reacted without thinking. Who had power in that situation? It wasn't you. It was the other person, the one who threw you off balance, who provoked your reaction. Because those who control your emotions control your actions. Here's the key: those who can't be provoked, who maintain their center no matter what happens, those are the ones who truly have power. It doesn't matter if it's in a discussion, negotiation, relationship, or any social interaction. Those who maintain emotional control always win, because those who control their emotions control others' perception of them. Machiavelli made it clear: a prudent person must act at all times with coldness and calculation. It's not about not feeling. It's about not being enslaved by what you feel. It's not about being a reactive animal that anyone can manipulate. If you apply this correctly, you become impenetrable. Others may try to get under your skin. They may try to provoke you. But if they can't move your center, if they can't predict how you'll react, they lose control over you. Here's the truth. Those who really dominate aren't the strongest. They're the ones who remain calm while everyone else loses their head. This leads us to the final key point, the power of strategic patience. Most people want immediate results. They want success now, respect now, power now. But what Machiavelli taught, what great players in history have applied time and again, is that true power doesn't belong to those who act impulsively, but to those who know how to wait for the perfect moment to move. The world is full of people who rush, who act without thinking, who make decisions without considering long-term consequences. But those who really control the game know how to wait. They know how to observe. They know how to calculate. Think of a hunter. They don't shoot at the first movement. They observe, measure distance, wait for their prey to be in the exact position. Only when the moment is right do they strike. This is the game of power. It's not always those who move first who win. It's those who move at the right moment. Machiavelli said, "Fortune favors those who know how to adapt to circumstances." It's not about running in every direction. It's about knowing when to accelerate and when to slow down. Mediocre people act on impulse. Strategists wait for their opportunity. The question is, are you one of those who rush in without thinking, or one of those who waits for their moment to strike with surgical precision? Because in this world, power doesn't belong to the fastest. It belongs to the smartest, to those who know how to handle perception, information, distance, emotional control, and strategic patience. If you apply all of this, you'll stop being a victim of the game and start being a true player. The world will remain ruthless, but now you'll know how to play by its rules. But here comes what truly makes the difference between those who just survive and those who dominate their destiny: the ability to become an anomaly in the system. Because now you know, now you understand that kindness alone isn't enough, that perception is everything, that emotional control is a tool of power, that strategic patience beats impulsiveness, and that scarcity increases your value. But what good is all this if you keep acting like everyone else has until now? If you want different results, you must become someone who doesn't conform to traditional rules, not in the sense of breaking them without purpose, but in the sense of rewriting the script. The problem with most people is they think within imposed limits. They follow the same patterns, react as expected, move within what's acceptable or expected. But those who truly leave a mark, those who change the game to their advantage, are those who dare to be unpredictable, to play with new rules, to do what no one expected. Here's the big secret. The world is designed to devour those who conform. If you do the same as the rest, you'll get the same results as the rest, and that means mediocrity. That means being another forgotten name in the endless flow of time. The only way to win is to step out of the mold, be the one who acts differently, who doesn't react as others expect, who always has a hidden card, who is never completely understood or anticipated. Be the one who, when they speak, people listen because their word isn't cheap. When you learn this, something changes within you. You realize you were never weak. You simply weren't playing with the right strategy. You realize people haven't been ignoring you because you're not worth it, but because you never knew how to project your value. But now you know, and knowing this is dangerous. Because the moment you apply it, there's no turning back. The moment you start controlling your presence, your image, managing information as a tool, using silence as a weapon, you'll start noticing how the world reacts differently to you. People who used to ignore you will start paying attention. Those who used to underestimate you will begin wondering what changed. Those who used to manipulate you will begin fearing to make a move against you because you are no longer the same. Now you are someone who understands how the game board works. If this exploration of Machiavellian strategy and psychological power has awakened something within you, if you're ready to stop being a victim of others' games and start mastering your own, then you're part of a rare group that sees beyond surface-level social dynamics. Subscribe to PSYPHORIA Zone and hit that like button to support content that exposes the hidden mechanics of power and influence. Click the notification bell to ensure you never miss our deep dives into the psychology of strategic thinking and human manipulation. Most importantly, I want you to take action on what you've learned. Share in the comments which Machiavellian principle resonated most with you, and tell us about one small change you're going to make in how you present yourself to the world. Your commitment to applying these insights helps build a community of strategically minded individuals who refuse to be exploited. Here comes the most important decision. Are you going to apply this, or are you going to return to ignorance? Because what separates those who thrive from those who fall behind isn't knowledge, it's action. You can stay here with this information floating in your head as an interesting but harmless idea, or you can start implementing it. The choice is yours, but I warn you of something. If you go backward, if you keep acting as you did before, you'll do so with the awareness that you're choosing to be invisible. You're choosing to remain ignored. Or you can start changing now. Small movements, small trials. Apply some mystery in your interactions. Control your urge to speak too much. Respond calmly instead of reacting emotionally. Retreat at the right moment. Observe silently instead of rushing without strategy. Small actions that over time change others' perception of you. Small actions that, when you least expect it, will have transformed you into someone who can no longer be ignored. Because the world doesn't remember those who just existed. It remembers those who knew how to play the game. The question that separates those who understand from those who remain trapped is this. What separates those who thrive from those who fall behind isn't knowledge, it's action. You can let this information remain floating in your mind as an interesting but harmless concept, or you can begin implementing it systematically. If you retreat to old patterns, if you continue acting as before, you'll do so with full awareness that you're choosing invisibility, choosing to remain overlooked. Or you can begin evolving now through small strategic adjustments. Apply mystery to your interactions. Control impulses to over-communicate. Respond thoughtfully rather than react emotionally. Withdraw strategically. Observe quietly instead of rushing blindly. These small modifications, accumulated over time, shift how others perceive you. These incremental changes, when you least expect it, transform you into someone impossible to ignore. The world doesn't remember those who merely existed. It remembers those who mastered the game of influence and power.